In this segment, I'd like to introduce the idea of a function. A function is, in mathematics, an equation. I'm going to go ahead and jot a few notes here. It's an equation where one item depends on another, or one item is a function of another item. In technology and science, this idea is very, very important, and we determine how one quantity depends on another. That's our primary goal. Again, a relation such as this, where one item depends on another, is called a function. It's such that for every value that you put into a function, there is only one corresponding value of the second. We say that the second one is a function or dependent on the first. Let me give you some examples, some real world examples. Your paycheck, often, especially if you're not a salaried employee, your paycheck is a function, or I'm going to say it's dependent. It depends on the number of hours you work. So the size of your paycheck is dependent, or the size of your paycheck is a function of the number of hours you work. Let's say that you get paid $10 per hour. So your paycheck would equal $10 per hour, and you'd multiply that by H hours, or I might rewrite that as P equals 10 times H. So if I said or put in a value of, let's say we worked for 12 hours, then I'd put in for H 12, and I'd find out that your gross paycheck is $120. So for one answer, one value put into the equation for this variable, you'll only get one answer out. There's no way, if you get $10 per hour, that there would be two different values for your paycheck. So if you worked 20 hours, I'd put in a 20 for H, and 20 times 10 is $200. So again, for any one input, there is only one output. For any one corresponding value of the second, of every value of the first, there is only one corresponding value of the second. How about, let's do another example. So let's talk about, let's say you own a home. The value of your home is dependent on, let you think for a minute while I write, the value of your home. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go back. What I meant is the taxes on your home. The taxes on your home, property taxes, are a function, and this is where I was getting at the word value, are a function of the value of your home. So if you had a home whose value was, $80,000, you'd put that into some formula at the city, and they would find out that your taxes are based on probably some factor, some coefficient. I'm just going to make something up. Let's say it's 0.00137 times the value of your home, and that might determine what your taxes are. And actually, your taxes are a function of what's called your SEV, function of your SEV of your home, which is your state equalized value of your home. And so the state has a formula, and they use that state equalized value to calculate your taxes if you live in the city of Battle Creek in a particular school district, funding district. And for anybody in that district, they pay their taxes as a function of their SEV with a particular formula. So our taxes are dependent on the value of our home. Another one, can you picture yourself diving into a pool? When you were young, you might have gone into a in-ground swimming pool and you might have been able to dive into the deep end, 12 feet. Do you remember that your ears might hurt as you go further under the surface of the water? So the water pressure is a function of how deep you go under the water, a function of the depth. So I'd like to now show you that we might write these things, these statements, where x is our independent variable and the second variable, often called y, is the dependent variable, and we write that y is a function of x with this notation. My answer for y is, equal sign, is a function or dependent, the F means the word function, of whatever I put in for x in the equation. So let's say that your income was a function of the number of hours you worked. That's how we might describe the setting. Remember that this little f means it's not standing for some variable f that you're going to substitute a value in for, f times h. It's just abbreviation of the word function. Your income is a function of the hours you work. If the formula that we're going to use to calculate your income is 10 times h, if I wanted to know what your income would be if you worked 12 hours, I would ask you to find f of 12. H being 12. So by stating this, I'm just asking you to put a 12 in for H and number crunch. Or if I asked you what would your income be, because it's a function of the number of hours you work, I might state it like this, and I'd say find f of 20 in this formula, 10h. So I'm asking you to put a 20 in for h and tell me that your income is $200. So I'm trying to show you here how I might ask you. So f of 20 means put a 20 in to the original equation and give me an output. Let me do this a little bit more again with the illustration of a function machine. Here's what I do sometimes when I illustrate a function machine. I show kind of a pipe kind of drawing, and it looks something like this. And this is a function machine, and inside this machine is the formula y equals 2 times x. I'm going to ask you to put a number in for x into this formula. So let's just say that I ask you to put the number 2 into this equation. The way I would normally say that is to find f of 2. But I'm asking you to dump a 2 in here, put it right there into the formula, 2 times x, which is 2, and give me an answer out. So I'm asking you to put the 2 in for x and give me an answer out. My input, this right here, is an independent value. If it was my working at some place at $10 an hour, the independent value would be the 12 hours or the 20 hours that I've demonstrated previously. The dependent number is the number that comes out. If we think of it as y is dependent on whatever x is. My answer is dependent on what I put in. Let's do it again. So if I ask you to find f of 1, I'm asking you to put a 1 here into the function machine. Put the number in, put it in for x, crunch, 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 and spit out an answer of 2, because 2 times 1 is 2. Let's do this again with this equation. So inside the function machine now, instead, I'm going to have y equals a negative 3x plus 4. So I ask you to put in, let's put in a 4 this time into the function machine. So I'm asking you right here to drop a 4 into the machine in the spot for x. This is my way of asking it. So I drop that 4 in for x. I use order of operations, which says to multiply and then add. And when I'm all done with order of operations, I get an answer out of this machine of a -8. So I drop a 4 in and I get an answer out of a -8. Let's do it with this equation. So if I were to ask you to put in a value for I of 3, I'm asking you to take 4 times I squared, or put a 3 in here for I, and square it. And so order of operations says to do the exponents first, so 3 squared is 9, and then to do the multiplication, and so the output would be a 36. In every one of these cases, an answer in gave us only one answer out. An answer in gave us only one answer out. In an effort to conclude here, I'd just like to share with you the function machine again, and my arm slipped here a little bit. So I'd like you to consider the working. So your income is equal to $10 times the number of hours you work. So if we drop into this, let's say you work 40 hours this week. If we drop into the function machine, I would be asking you to find f of, I'm realizing I'm probably off the screen here, f of 40. So I'm asking you to put a 40 in for h. So 10 times 40 would give us an output. It would come out of this function machine and we get a value of $400. Just an introduction. I'm going to come back in our next segment and we're going to talk a little bit more about evaluating equations, which are called functions.